Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies in a capsule.
It's a great product. And the one thing I like about it the most is that when you open the bottles, you can smell like the scent of the fruits and veggies. It's no genius thing to it. It's really just fruits and veggies, which everyone needs. And you guys kind of put it in a way where you can take it easy and you can get it, and it's natural, and that's what I like about it. You know, I like the product, and I've taken it, and it's definitely made me feel a lot better. You know, I am a healthy person to begin with, but it's definitely good prevention, and it's definitely gives me energy, and I feel like it's a natural thing. I like it. I really do.
For a limited time, use discount code TALK to receive a 50% discount on your first preferred whole health system and have it shipped to you free. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Again, use discount code TALK.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM. Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Malduquette, Aaron Sheik, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Paranormal News, I'm John Jeter. Researchers at MIT's Department of Aeronautics and Astronautics say they can get the attention of aliens as far as 20,000 light years away by shooting a powerful laser into outer space. Their study suggests that beaming a 1 or 2 megawatt laser through a 100 to 150 foot wide telescope on Earth could create a detectable signal. Graduate student James Clark says this would be a challenging project, but not an impossible one. There are still some hurdles to cross, such as interfering with aircraft and damaging the eyes of anyone who may be hit by the laser beam nearby. Clark says it makes more sense to build it on the far side of the moon, where no one's living or orbiting much. Getting all the gear and manpower there, well, that's another challenge, folks. Speaking of the moon, Avatar robots being operated by humans on Earth could occupy a lunar base one day. This is sounding like James Cameron's blockbuster hit Avatar.
The concept is to drive these remotely controlled bodies called avatars. They're grown from human DNA mixed with DNA of the natives.
Russian space agency Roscosmos has revealed its plans to land a cosmonaut on the surface by 2030. Administrator Dmitry Rogozin says the project will be larger than the U.S. Apollo program, which landed astronauts on the moon in the 60s and early 70s. The U.S. plans to beat Russia to the moon, barely, by landing astronauts on the surface by late next decade. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
Contact, nice to be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. We are broadcasting all the way from the Great South here in Forest Tower Studios, live coming at you on the Fringe FM, KTLK digital broadcasting. It is Tuesday night, November the 13th on into the 14th as the moon continues its wax on into midnight. Tonight on the broadcast, we're going to talk about a story that I still feel we need to look at and investigate to this day. The story of George Van Tassel, the Integratron, Giant Rock, the movie that we should be discussing, possibly one of the greatest UFO stories never told, but also ever told. And we're here with Chad C. Meek. He'll be joining us tonight. And the website is lightingthevoid.com. The network, again, is the Fringe FM, which is on TalkStream Live and a whole host of places. That call to listen line is 701-719-3971. Thanks for joining us. You can text in to the show, which is 501-777-5631 if you want to text in. You can also email the show at any point in time at contact@lightingthevoid.com. You can give us some support. I want to say thanks to Genevieve and thanks to all of you who support the show. You can support by donating or go using the Amazon portal or grabbing a t-shirt. This show is brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio and pick up your free audiobook or Audible original. And follow, like, subscribe. Everything is Lighting the Void. All right. Now that we got the business out of the way. You know, speaking of business, I want to tell you guys something. I had a guy ask me the other night. He wanted to buy the domain, thefringe.fm, and all of my social media accounts because he happened to buy the domain fringe.fm. So he hits me up and he goes, how much would you sell thefringe.fm for and all your social media accounts? And I'm thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? So I look on Google, and at Google, if you just search Fringe FM, we're all over the front page of Google, but he's up there around second or third because he went out, get this, he went out and bought Fringe.fm, and he's got some podcast about, I don't know, artificial intelligence and future and stuff, which is only really one side of the Fringe, I guess you could say, and it's robbing our traffic. So I replied to him. I was like, hell no, dude. Are you getting our donations too? I'm not mad at the guy. I guess I don't blame him. It just didn't sound right to me. Fringe.fm. I thought about buying that domain too, but it just didn't sound right. Oh, yeah, don't forget if you hashtag anything on Twitter, that's LTV Radio. I want to say thanks to Eric Markham and Jeremy Scott, my team in Vance Nesbitt as well, Stranger Than Fiction news guy, news sorcerer. Yeah, so the Integratron, what do we know about it? If you don't know about it, let me tell you a little quick thing real quick. George Van Tassel started hosting group meditations back in 1953, in a room underneath Giant Rock, excavated by Frank Kreitzer, a prospector. And that year, according to Van Tassel, the occupant of a spaceship from the planet Venus woke him up, invited him on board his spaceship, and both verbally and telepathically gave him a technique for rejuvenating the human body. In 1954, Van Tassel and others began building what they called the Integratron to perform the rejuvenation. According to Van Tassel, the Integratron was to be a structure for scientific research into time, travel, anti-gravity, and extending the human life. It was built partially upon the research of Nikola Tesla and looks like George Lukovsky. Now, Van Tassel described the Integratron as being created for scientific and spiritual research with the aim to recharge and rejuvenate people's cells, a time machine for basic research on rejuvenation, anti-gravity, and time travel. The domed wood structure has a rotating metal apparatus on the outside he called an electrostatic die rod, and Van Tassel claimed it was made of a non-ferromagnetic materials like wood, concrete, glass, and so forth, lacking even metal screws or nails. And now, it was never fully completed due to Van Tassel's sudden death a few weeks before the official opening. In recent times, a lot of people who visit the unfinished Integratron claim to be rejuvenated by staying there and experiencing sound baths inside. Now, you can check all this out. I got that information just that I read to you there is from Wikipedia. The whole story's there. If you're into the UFO field, you know a little bit about it. We hear this nephew, Chad Meek, who's making a movie called Giant Rock the Movie, who we've been behind this movie production for quite some time. And with everything that's going on, you know, for the past few shows, we talked about distractions and what's true and what's not. It's still unclear to me why this story is one of the stories that never gets talked about. And that's why it is deemed the greatest UFO story never told. And Chad C. Meek is here with us. Chad, it's really awesome to have you back on the show.
Joe, my pleasure. Love doing your show. Love chatting with you. We're going to have a really good time. Gosh dang, I tell you, every time you open up your mouth, it triggers about 5 or 6 different, well, actually 5 or 6,000 different ideas like that I want to start spitting out at once. I mean, when you're going through all that stuff, I was like, God, I could talk about that. I could talk about that. I could talk about that. Non-ferrous metals, etc. I could throw in my dad who helped build the damn thing. I could talk. I mean, there's just so many things. And then even before this, which is really intriguing. I don't want to confuse the audience about or sidetrack them, but you talk about this guy who wants to get your domain name. Well, you know who's been kind of thieving mine is Dwayne The Rock, because I have Giant Rock and Giant Rock the Movie. Dwayne The Rock and NBC has been buying ad spaces, which all of my traffic on the web, which if you type in Giant Rock the Movie, you're going to go into I'm the whole front 5 pages of that whole thing, and it runs into 200 to 300 million impressions. Okay, well, lo and behold, I start seeing Dwayne The Rock in this NBC show tagging my and they're buying it. They're buying the ad space on Google, and I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting. Anyway, that's what brought it up as far as all the. Yeah.
I mean, I just didn't think about it. Like. It doesn't sound right to me to buy a domain name called fringe.fm, right? It just don't sound right. To me, it doesn't. Because everybody calls it The Fringe, right? So I bought thefringe.fm, and these .fm domains, they're not cheap. Built it up on Google. It ranks pretty good for Fringe FM anyways. And then this guy's got a little bit more money, throws his money around and buys fringe.fm, and now he's wanting to buy me out. And I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about, man? You think I should give him a price, right? What do you think I should give him? What would you sell it for?
Oh, God. Yeah, start at $1 million.
Yeah, let's work our way backwards, right? I can come up with a different radio station name.
Start at $1 million. if he's got plenty of jingle jangle, start at $1 million. Hell, you need a vacation.
You're right. Well, now I don't want to be mean to the guy, but I mean, all's fair in love and war on the internet, I guess. But it's I just never thought it would happen to me, Chad.
Well, you know what? It if you've been around for a while, it's going to happen to you. The other thing too is, maintaining all these domain names. It's a death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, every time I get, from the domain registrar, I get the GoDaddy notice of one of my domain names, which I've strategically tried to buy to protect Giant Rock the movie, etc. You know what I'm talking about, man?
Yeah, buddy.
And it's like it's like a death by 1,000 cuts. This is I could go on a whole tyrant about between IMBD, which is the registry for movies, and they want $19.99 a month, and it's amazing the amount of cash, and I call it the book is a death by 1,000 cuts, which which is a metaphor. I mean, it's like they suck the blood out of you, sort of trying to protect your whole intellectual property. So yeah, I digress. So anyways, you got me, you got me thinking about that. Oh God! And I look at it. What Dwayne? Hey, you got more money than Dones has pills. Dwayne, give me a call. Let's, you're a producer. Let's do Giant Rock the movie. I mean, I'll give you all the free publicity, and I mean, it'll be a great co-marketing, co-branding strategy.
The Rock and Giant Rock, yeah, that would
the Rock
work.
and the Giant Rock, yeah.
He could play you, maybe, or I don't know.
I'd shave my head off. I mean, I swear I'd get my head all shined up. Anyways,
well, it's funny you bring The Rock up because he actually did play in a UFO paranormal movie. You know that?
I didn't know.
I think it's called Race to Witch Mountain. Have you seen that?
I think I wasn't that like in the 80s or something, or
it's been a while, but Whitley Strieber was there. It was about these two aliens that came down, and there was a conference in Vegas, and The Rock and the journalist had to help them get back to their ship. It was kind of cool to see The Rock in one of those movies.
You know what? I didn't catch that. That wasn't. I'm still partial to movies like Close Encounters, so I kind of missed that one out. And I missed that one.
Well,
but I'll look it up. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. The reason why I thought about you is because I don't know if you know what's been going on with the whole secret space program thing. But certain people tried to trademark the word secret space program. Just a lot of just weird, stupid, I guess you would say, polish wood type stuff that's going on in this community. And I will start with, I was talking to Dan last night, and I started thinking about, after the show, what stories in this community do I think have some legitimacy to them that that deserve to be blown up the way this thing got blown up. And I keep going back to this one. The story of your uncle, George Van Tassel. I mean, he went on national TV. Anybody can see the interview on YouTube where he just got grilled and talked about with 100% confidence that he, met these beings and built Integratron, talked about time, travel, and all this stuff. And that, it's hard for us to talk about these things now, but you can imagine being around when he was around at that time talking about those types of things. So I tend to think that this might have actually, really happened, and we need to look into this and get behind it more than all this other, green chicken, blue chicken, whatever stuff.
Right. Super space, colony on Mars and all that. So, and God knows, I'm sure there's a gazillion people on Mars. We just haven't seen them on Google yet. And who knows, we will, or, who knows, there may be 250,000 people on the other side of the moon. I don't know as far as that, but, you hit the nail on the head. And this is something that's been driving me crazy, because this really is the greatest UFO story that's never been told. And it is peculiar that more and more people are finding out about it, and people within our community, they know about my uncle, and they know that, I mean, he's the granddaddy, except for some dweeb from the UFO Congress. I hear a bunch of idiot stuff too. Trust me, as far as this. But the bottom line is that as far as what was going on out there during that time, the actual crossroads of what we have today of ufology. That's where it really began. It didn't begin in Roswell. That was where a crash happened, in Roswell. But the real coming together of the whole ufology movement started at Giant Rock. That is, I mean, and hands down, and that's a historical reference. This is not me making it up. This actually happened. I was a direct witness to this stuff. So, and I was on the inside. I was like a little fly on the side of the wall, sucking in all this information and all these different stories back in the back in the 60s. So, in many respects, I'm a living testament to what went on out there. And even though it's huge, and of course I was just a child in the early 60s when it really got roaring out there, it is the most definitive time anywhere in the world. And even though it seems like a Western Americana being in this remote area out in the Mohave Desert, it seems, comparatively speaking, there was no crossroads. There was no cornerstone. And even today, and when I talk to various people for various reasons, the people who have, who are a little older, that is the cornerstone of most people's within the whole UFO area. That's a part of their belief system. It's almost like it's an amazing thing, and I'm actually surprised that I have been involved in this. And so it's kind of like something that, in essence, in retrospect, I've been chosen to, in fact, to do this. Now, also, too, Joe, I decided a long time ago that this is not just some documentary or some book, which instead I wrote a book called Giant Rock. You can go get that on Amazon and read about the story out there. Right. And a lot of people have, but it's really set up for a visual, major theatrical worldwide release. And so that's really what the whole thing, and all the ethereal bodies that I continually channel or hear little whispers on, and everything else supports this. So yeah, it's an amazing thing. And the other thing too is it's still standing after all these years. Both the Integratron, which is built with non-ferrous metals, there's actually very, very minimal amount. It's kind of more of a tourist attraction right now. The true meaning got lost with the, we're talking about a real epic human struggle that my uncle went through. And really in part, obviously I'd like to make $1 gazillion off the movie. Let's not make, no bones about it. But still, the primary reason, my primary motivation for doing this in the first place was to resurrect some of the actual work and the influence that my uncle had for people all over the world that I would bump into. And this thing, I mean, you talk about driving a man insane. I would run into people in Serbia. I would run into people in China. I would run into people who knew my uncle and studied his works and studied what he wrote, which, it was all a bunch of scattergun stuff, But if you listen to the man, he was at the time the authority. Now, the only other the competition primarily was between him and George Adamski. They call them the two Georges, and they both spent time on the Long John Neville show out of New York, which is the precursor to Larry King. Larry King took this show over. Yeah. But again, as far coast to coast, as far as percentage of people who listen to that show versus coast to coast, the Long John Neville show had, they were the biggest nighttime show ever. Yeah. So,
I think the thing is that really interests me is, your uncle passed away before he finished this, Integratron, but we talk about this on the show a lot. And it's kind of almost like remembering. And I say that because our bodies are built like, in my mind, like batteries. We got to sleep so long. We got to do all this stuff, balance our diet, balance our oxygen intake, balance our sleep, balance everything, our digestion, everything. in order for our cells to regenerate, properly, and they still decay after time because, just the environmental things just give in on us. And here he was tapping into that, created a machine like that. And it seems like every time something great, even with Tesla, every time something great is about to be released, like they pass away or something happens, Tesla's stuff, everybody talks about Tesla a lot too. And I wonder sometimes if people aren't already tapped into this technology and using it without telling us. I mean, they're already cloning people and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, as far as the whole backyard, science, as far as cloning and what have you. I mean, there's literally, you literally can clone a human being now. So I mean, the science has gotten that far. So. Yeah, and the other thing too is that I think the main reason a lot of this stuff, and this is the weird end of this whole this way, like I've been, you talk about, we talk about the hero's journey, okay? You've got one with your radio network and what have you. There's a hero's journey going on there. This, the struggle, the fight, et cetera, to make that happen. Right. My uncle had one, as far as to get his thoughts and his beliefs out there about not only UFO disclosure, which God, that was the real granddaddy of UFO disclosure back then, because that was a place that everyone gathered from all over the world and shared information long before the internet. And but we're all on and I'm on a hero's journey. Now I thought. And God, screw me as far as trying to think of, well,
no, but you are. You've been in this fight for a while.
I am. Now, when I was writing this thing, and I wrote this screenplay, as far as this, I had never written a screenplay. Crap. I mean, as far as that stuff goes, like I said, I had a Forrest Gump moment where it says, "Hey, you got to write a screenplay about this." Well, I went and did, and everyone who read it liked it. As far as that,
great.
But you know what? I got into as far as this, and I got a big old block because I was so the early go at it. I was so rigid as far as that, and I literally had. I talk about this really, and it's easy for me to say. I had a lot of help writing this thing here. I'd have voices. I would remember things from when I was 5 or 6 years old. A conversation. And then by chance, if one of the people were, I could remember, I could put all this stuff together. I would get voices, et cetera. And my uncle would tell me, and as far as that in his words, and I've heard them forever and ever. He says, write this however you want. He says because people are going to go on the internet and go on the other thing. They're going to find out it for themselves. They're going to determine what it is and the whole thing. So from that point on, it just kind of the words and the whole dialogue and everything just flew off the pages. So it's been critiqued by a lot of people, and so there is that. But that was my hero's journey. I thought, okay, well now I'm on to riches and fame. Well, hello. Now, if you want to do anything with it, you got to go get made. Then you have to enter the den of inequity, which is Hollywood producers. Egos and stuff I was just telling you before the show, I have to deal with every day, as far as this, people saying, well, you can't make a movie with that kind of budget because you haven't made a slew of other, movies, et cetera, and, you can't do this and and the movie business is completely, dead and blah, 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 blah. And, I have to deal with that on a daily basis. So my hero's journey, really, it kind of went from this. I was almost on, let's call it an opiate while I'm writing this thing here, because it was just I was in a different world, and that whole creative world. Now I go into the more mechanical world or the 3D world of the whole business, stuff that and in Hollywood, everyone's seen the crap that's been being spun out of there. It's all based on nepotism and all kinds of stuff. And these aren't just sour grapes. It's the reality of it. I mean, heck, I get it. But also, too, there's this other thing, too, I've noticed that certain stories have a little bit more difficult time getting out there. And this is the one story, as far as with the whole UFO world, that should be out there because it's real and it's organic and it shows, you know, the storyline brings people along with all these simultaneous events that are occurring, and there's a human touch to it.
Right.
So, so this one needs to be done, and it can't be done through Ronnie Howard's eyes, or it can't be done through Steven Spielberg's eyes, because they weren't there. And they don't know, and I know there's a certain, you talk about balance. I know the balance of this whole thing, and I know the texture, and I know what this thing's supposed to be, and it's kind of like music, if you know, and so I just kind of hold out,
right?
Thinking,
Yeah.
Well,
I'll tell you what,
compromise.
We got to take a break, but I do want to talk about some of the things that are going on in the UFO community, as well as some of the stories that you've had too. Things that have happened to you. You know, Chad Meek isn't just a screenwriter or a movie producer. He's also had his own experiences, too. There's a lot of passion in this man when it comes to this thing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that right after this. Stay with us.
To Lighting the Void Radio. The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Do you ever wonder why there's so much show in politics? Do you ever wonder why America's not getting fixed? Ever wonder why our media is not reporting the news? They report only their biased opinion. Are you tired of feeling like a controlled rat? Do you wonder what's next? If you're looking for answers, join me, Ronnie McMullen, for my new show, Deep Waters Radio. That's Deep Waters Radio. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies in a capsule.
It's a great product. And the one thing I like about it the most is that when you open the bottles, you can smell like the scent of the fruits and veggies. It's no genius thing to it. It's really just fruits and veggies, which everyone needs. And you guys kind of put it in a way where you can take it easy and you can get it, and it's natural, and that's what I like about it. You know, I like the product, and I've taken it, and it's definitely made me feel a lot better. You know, I am a healthy person to begin with, but it's definitely good prevention, and it's definitely gives me energy, and I feel like it's a natural thing. I like it. I really do.
For a limited time, use discount code TALK to receive a 50% discount on your first preferred whole health system and have it shipped to you free. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Again, use discount code TALK.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shithead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Have a great day.
Alex. I was thinking about the cops because I was looking at photos and stuff online. It seems like more and more I'm seeing police with tattoos, and I'm sorry. I can't tell the gangbangers from the cops now. I mean, what if they had them on their face? Now, that would be crazy, because that's where it really originates from. A lot of people don't know that. I know it's a big thing now on, like, rappers, and everybody's doing it. Gang members have them. Everybody's kind of doing it now. Musicians and tattoos on their face, crosses, crucifix, and stuff like that. Crucifixes, that's what's really funny to me, because it's all satanic. All of it. All of it. All of it. Tattoos are straight from hell. Hell sent. Straight from hell. Straight from the bowels of hell. All tattoos. All tattoos. Period. End of story. Oh, you didn't know that? Because they were trying to represent the actual demon gods that they worshipped. Straight from hell. Pure evil. Straight from the bowels of hell, from Satan himself.
KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
You can also contact the show if you email as well at contact@lightingthevoid.com. I'm Joe Roop. We're here with Chad C. Meek. We're talking about the George Van Tassel story, the greatest UFO story never told. And just a little bit of recap. George Van Tassel built the Integratron, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but had communications with extraterrestrials, got some information about technology that I don't know that we're not using today, but we need to. Built the Integratron for human and cell development, time travel. That was one too, wasn't it, Chad, that he talked about was time travel and what that it is?
Yeah.
And
yes, it was.
Almost got it done, passed away in 1978, and now we're here with Chad C. Meek, which is his nephew, is from GiantRockTheMovie.com, who's trying to produce a movie about this event, one of the greatest UFO stories never told. And I think that a lot of people don't really know about you that well. A lot of people know about George, but they don't know that you have also had your own experiences with this stuff. Oh
yeah, no, I have from very early age. Around 4 years old, that's where it all began out there, and from then I had several abduction experiences. The first one was the most chilling. And they in fact were the Greys, and this is a lot of the abductions that occurred between 1955 and 1965, and especially they happened to children between 4 and 6 years old. And they say that according to Dr. Mack and other people's research, that it could have been as many as 5 million people were abducted, especially children. As far as that, so I was in fact singled out, terrified. The whole thing, the whole experience was at my grandmother's house, and I was literally teleported outside of a window. And this was in some pretty tight corners in the same room as my brother's. And I was brought out to a ship that was kind of in sitting outside of there, it's about 20 feet up in the air and about 50 feet outside, as far as that. And there were a whole slew of experiments done on me, and I was told telepathically. I couldn't understand it. I was just completely in terror of the whole thing, and I was reassured, and they were trying to comfort me. But that's something you can't be comforted with, So, at any rate, the next day I woke up with an extremely high fever. I imagine I had an implant put in, and I stuttered profusely for about 6 months. Couldn't speak I was having a hard time speaking anyways, but couldn't speak a clean sentence from then on for a long time. Of course, that led to a certain amount of monitoring that they had done on me, and I could actually sense when they were looking at me and watching me. And then it all kind of culminated when I was about 10 years old. Incidentally, that experience is in the book, too. It culminated when I was 10 years old, when I refused to let go of this swing, and my legs went vertical up in the air, and they were telepathically telling me to let go. And I said, no, I'm not going with you. And I literally had marks on my hands hanging on to it, and they finally gave up. And from that part, I never had any experience with the Greys. But up until that point, I figure I had, trying to count back, the minimum I had 6 abductions and was taken or, and transplanted in various places. One time, about a year after that, I was riding a small little bike, and then all of a sudden I'm being transported into a high school about 5 miles away, and could not figure out how I got there. And all of a sudden the police came up, but during the meantime, I was sitting in the middle of a bunch of girls, teenage high school girls, and they were feeding me sandwiches. They couldn't figure out where I'd come from.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't explain it either. So anyway, so it was kind of a very distressful time period. But I ran, in fact, one of my associate producers, I ran to a lot of people that have had very similar experiences out in the desert, especially out there, out in the Landers, Yucca Valley area, 29 Palms. I've ran into so many people that have had similar, where they're abductees and what have you. In fact, my associate producer of Giant Rock, and at least the current one, he got abducted out there, and he was missing for I guess 14 hours. And they had the whole Marine base and cops, and he couldn't figure out where he was at either.
But you don't remember anything that happened to you? Just the missing
as far
time?
Well, no. The first one I do, I remember that. They got better at doing it. I remember them putting, stainless steel objects in all my orifices, as far in eyes, ears, and what have you. And they were doing some experience. I was on a table, and these were the small Greys, and so I remember that vividly. But the other ones I don't remember, and I don't know whether, it's like, the younger you are, the more open you are as far as your pineal gland, and, you just see things much, much differently and clearer. And as you grow older, it becomes less and less and less. But mine hasn't been closed all the way. But as far as the recall, it becomes less and less, other than to the last one when I remember that cloudy day where they tried to get me out of the swing and I wouldn't go. So, so that there is that whole memory, thing. But the younger you are, the more you're gonna remember it. As far as, at least in my case, it was that, and that kind of created a whole different dimension as far as my whole lifetime or whole view, and specifically with my uncle, because I thought at the time, he would hold these channeling sessions out inside the rock, and they continued. So I really thought that he
was doing that channeling sessions when that happened to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, they went on a regular basis. So it was really he was, again, it's a kind of weird combination as far as the whole, and they're actually the same thing. The whole metaphysical world, the supersensible world, and ufology and all. It's all the same thing. I mean, we're talking about these truly outer dimensional and interdimensional worlds that are colliding, in humans and what have you, as far as these very experiences and what have you. I mean, I'm really, right now the rage is the ayahuasca and all the other, these different experiences, but
the shamanistic stuff.
Yeah, the shamanistic stuff is there, but a lot of that stuff, I mean, it's all this all the drugs inside your own head, you've got them already, and I think what all these things do is just re-excite and reignite these worlds within worlds of our own selves, as far as that, because again, if you believe in the whole world of singularity, which that's really what everything comes down. All the philosophies, especially the good ones, all comes down to this going back this singularity. And when you talk about singularity, you're really talking about worlds upon worlds upon worlds, where there's absolutely no difference between Neptune and this world and this world. And then you get in the whole interdimensional time, travel and what have you. That's a whole. There's other things that we're just, that you just have to kind of, I guess, think of when you're.
Didn't your uncle George Van Tassel, and he talked about time? He said that the ETs told him that time was not like a clock, not like hours that we have here, but it was more like a thought, like one thought that was happening all at once, or something like that. If I remember, I may be misquoting.
Yeah. Well, no, you're on the right track. Time is just an absolute illusion. I mean, it really is, as far as, in reality, that's just a complete illusion. Time is just a farce. I mean, it's a gigantic farce as far as that stuff goes. So and that's why, it's just a farce. And he addressed that quite often. But again, the Integratron was built. If you thought about what he was doing, which is really kind of ingenious at the time, we talk about cell rejuvenation. Okay, so if you get back in the whole Anunnaki thread, where all these the gods on Earth, they created us out of these hominoids, etc. But they also designed us to die early. They didn't give us, so there are these mechanisms in our DNA strand that makes us die off earlier. That's why we're not living to 1,000 years, et cetera, et cetera. We have the, it's blinded from us, and that DNA strand is not activated. Now, I guess there are certain ways you can activate that, that DNA, and I think my guess is what's going to happen. I've had vivid dreams about this gigantic pulse wave that's literally going to reactivate this, this DNA strand in us, and which basically is going to make a majority. You think we got population now? We're going to have literally a circumstance where no one will die. As far as this, and that kind of coincides with some biblical, stuff about all this.
Your uncle brought that up. He brought up Moses, the parting of the Red Sea. The parting of the Red Sea. I'm sorry. The tabernacle. He brought up the tabernacle. He also brought up the fact that one of the species that he had talked to, which really shot the interview guy, just like, what? Like one of the species he talked to was 700 and something years old. Right. And so we always wonder about that, about, people that look at biblical stuff as actual historical events. Well, how in the hell were these people living to be 600, 700, 800 years old, stuff like that?
It makes no sense. I know.
It makes no sense to us, but it very well could be the norm out in these other realms.
Do you know what a bad day is? Is when the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door.
Is it?
It is. Really, I actually feel sorry for them. They come walking up, and I think, oh, gee, this is going to be fun. But it just, I don't mean to be an arrogant SOB, but I'll point stuff out to them. As far as I'll ask them questions. Well, how can you live to 900 years? What about these giants? What about this? What about
You really ask them that stuff?
Oh, Oh God, I do. I ask them all this stuff, and they, you know, they don't. Yeah, I could see the beads of sweat popping off their head, you know, and all that stuff. So I just ask them questions.
Well,
I'm
just saying, a lot of the stuff that's been talked about for years and years and years, the geomagnetic places on the Earth, sacred geometry, the cellular rejuvenation, you know, talking about how the body is a magnet. These things were talked about in the Book of Thoth. You know, your uncle was talking about this stuff back in the 50s, and now it's being treated as if it's all new information. And this is what I'm saying, like, this story of the Integratron and George Van Tassel and everything got kind of, I don't know how it got left in the wake. Like, it's just, people are kind of holding their hands above their eyes, looking at it, going, yeah, that story's back there somewhere, but it should be one of, like you say, just as big as Roswell. In my mind, it is.
Well, actually, when you think about it, you know, from historical context too, you know, we're talking about, you know, morphing in from, you know, this 50s time of discovery going into the 60s, you know, with the various, you know, Summer of Love, peace, and the peace movement, et cetera, and then it got all squashed out in the 70s, and everyone got really freaked out, and I think it was by design that everyone got completely, their minds got discombobulated into this whole fear thing. We had the Zodiac Killer, we had the Vietnam War, you know, we had Nixon, we had all of this extraordinarily intense, you know, rift. I don't know, maybe sounds a little familiar about what's going on right now between, you know, the blacks and whites and you know, all this stuff that was going on. It was so intense. And then what everyone did was they all went and got, you know, Abby Hoffman, he went, the big peace protester, he went and got a suit on, and he went to Wall Street. And a lot of these people, you know, all these people who were these thought-provoking people, that whole movement just died in the 70s. It became this whole materialism stuff. Then it went off into 80s, and the mechanism came in with a, you know, a computer and what have you. That was a different mindset. So it was, but I think it was by design too. I've often said that the whole, you know, like the Charles Manson murders and all this stuff was actually designed by, you know, some extremely insidious minds that, you know, it kind of segues into this 9/11 thing. I mean, you know, there seems to be some correspondence between these shocking, you know, events that occur that make people go to more traditional or more, I guess, less esoteric, more regimented, conventional 3D world. You know, go to work, go to church, and then die. That's that. You know, and that's kind of what's kind of happened. So during that time period, a lot of these people, which were they were truly heroes back in the day. It wasn't just my uncle. There were a whole bunch of them. Gabriel Green. There was other people that were, you know, what they were looking for was this whole world peace thing and a non-nuclear world, which incidentally, that also segues into one of my uncle's biggest call, where he ended up on Life magazine, where he had predicted that flyover in Washington, D.C., I believe it was 52, in July of 52.
Tell me about that. He predicted a flyover of what, UFOs? What had happened is he was talking to this in the challenge session. They came down to him, the Council of Seven Lights and this governing body that he was communicating with. They told him to tell all the authorities, which he used the word authorities quite often, you know, in the world, primarily the United States, that they need to stop doing these nitrogen above ground nuclear testing because it was destroying not only our own environment but parallel universes, which is really an odd concept, this parallel universe thing. And so my uncle says they're not going to believe me. You know, and in fact, he absolutely resisted. He actually had an argument. Can you imagine having an argument with this ethereal body saying, I'm not doing this. This is going to ruin me. This is going to ruin my life. And he actually, you know, he was quoted as saying that. And they said, well, what you're going to do is tell them that we're going to do a flyover. You know, and this is what we're going to do it. And we're going to stay there to you're to send them all letters stating what you've been told, and then what we're going to do to substantiate this, we're going to do this flyover over Washington D.C.
Okay.
And that was the biggest flyover, or that ever happened. And they stayed there for 3 days, and that was during the Truman administration. And he had sent letters to Truman, to all the Department, Army, Navy, L.A. Times, L.A. Herald Examiner, Life magazine, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it came true. It can't, in fact, it's probably one of the more well-documented flyover, and that was my uncle's claim to fame. And so then Life magazine came out and did they eventually did put him on the cover of Life magazine, and because of this call that he had made about these UFOs. So that was something that happened. That was real news, real stuff that happened. It also got him on the map. The precursor to this COINTELPRO, there was a group loosely knit of FBI agents under what's his face, Hoover. Is it Hoover?
Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah, Hoover. And so they went and tried to go. Then what they did is they started to discredit him. He became eventually became, even under the Eisenhower administration, became a person considered one of America's most dangerous people.
Yeah, they considered him a self-ordained minister of a quasi-religious organization. They were trying to make him out to be a mental case, actually, I think.
Yeah, and they did a pretty good job of it as far as the whole thing. I mean, but not, he didn't suffer, my uncle didn't suffer fools. You've seen his interview. But, as far as in a lot of print, and even the Life magazine article was somewhat, kind of a thing. But all the press he got was, this kind of kooky guy out in the desert, talks to spacemen, space people. And so that was a big onslaught here. So as far as when I talk about the hero's journey, he had taken it. He was in fact, that's the whole thematic in the whole movie is reluctant heroes, of people who don't really necessarily want to go stick their necks out, but do it because they know it's the right thing to do.
And that's why I stay on top of this story too, because nowadays we see all these conferences and everything, which in my mind, George Van Tassel, created a lot of these conferences, especially around the Joshua Tree area. He's one of the first people that went about on national, TV and whatever, and said, look, the human race had been created and manipulated for thousands of years by ETs posing as gods,
Yep.
And the only mention of God in the Bible is when the universe is made. Therefore, all such references are out of the sky or out of heaven. So he was trying to tell us that all this stuff is interrelated. Now, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's writing about it. There's movies and, Gaia TV and all this stuff. And here I sit looking at this almost, not even fully built Integratron. To me, it's like a national piece of ET and ufological treasure to me in my mind and heart. And I don't understand, I guess, and maybe it is the movie business, why this thing just isn't getting done.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's almost like a virus or something. I don't know, what it is. And there's enough out of it. I mean, well, the other thing too is there is, the traditionally what happens is, what happens is a producer will go obtain the movie rights from a writer. Well, I'm not going to give up the movie rights, as far as that traditionally, and then he'll go out with his cronies and buddies and et cetera, et cetera. But that was the way it was done. Now I don't even know what. Now I don't even know what they're doing, because there's just not, it's changed so dramatically. Now we're into the live streaming, end as far as that, which is an option also. I could do a live streaming thing as far as that, but the long and short of it is that what I would prefer to do and how to handle this is make a feature film, make a sequel, and then go, then of course adapt it to maybe a series or what have you, because that's the more practical way. And the other thing too is to really help an idea or a cause really move forward. You're looking about to get as many people as you can. And right now, people, even though in the States and in Canada, movie attendance is down like 2.5%. People over in China and over in India, everyone goes to the movies. They don't have live streaming from Amazon and Netflix and what have you. It's just primarily their primary thing. That's where 70% of all the revenue comes from, is in the foreign markets, international theatrical release. So we're in this kind of weird transition. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually feel victimized. Yeah. I'm on this side here. I'm thinking, and I'll look at what's being made, or look at
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Yeah. So, but I just kind of keep prodding along as far as this, expecting somebody out there to say, hey, well, number one, I've tracked this thing as far as the numbers, as far as what this thing could be. It could be essentially very, very closely tracking the Hunger Games, not in the genre, but as far as that, there's enough content between the screenplay and the book to probably do 3 movies, and it's contemporary, it's real stuff, and it's not just and the Hunger Games, heck, they made a damn Lionsgate made $5 or $6 billion of the human meat business, the go hunt human business. As far as this is, this kind of dystopian world. Well, we actually, Giant Rock actually morphs into it towards the end of it into more of a dystopian type world. But what I do is I stay pretty close to the main thought process during the first couple of ways. But that's what But that's my idea. So,
right. Well, listen, we've got to go. We're at the top of the hour here. Just remember when I say this, guys, that that George Van Tassel was one of the first people that told us. He even talked about the 10 Commandments were given to Moses by the space people as a set of guidelines to live by, and that the manna from heaven in the Bible was bread supplied by the space people, and stuck his neck out way before a lot of these people are doing it now. So. Anyways, we'll talk about a little bit more of that when after these messages. Be right back.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER to get $10 off your first box. As a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWER.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News, right here on the Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Robots will soon match humans in creativity as well as emotional intelligence. Australian artificial intelligence expert Tony Walsh said during the Festival of Dangerous Ideas in Sydney recently that he thinks artificial intelligence will learn and possibly match human traits like creativity, emotional intelligence, and adaptability in less than 50 years. And Walsh, a science professor at the Artificial Intelligence at UNSW Sydney, predicts robots will be as smart as humans by the year 2062. This article was posted at thenewyorkpost.com. And your nose actually shrinks when you lie, known as the reverse Pinocchio effect. Scientists showed the temperature of your nose lowers when you tell a lie. This causes it to shrink. Though the change is imperceptible to the human eye, the team designed a lie detector test that tracks the temperature of your face. It picked out fibbers with an accuracy rate of 80%. This was posted at the Daily Mail, UK. And now for this edition's fun fact. Samsung has been using a butt-shaped robot to test the phone's durability. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News for the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, anchor and news sorcerer.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news. These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info, and find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Yo-hoy there. Gigi here.
And I'm Cortana, and we're going to bring you on a journey through all things paranormal, metaphysical, ufology, and even psychedelic. On our show,
Shift Happens, live, Fridays at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 10 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
And remember, kids, don't feed the Archons. Feed ducks instead.
Duck up.
You know, I wonder, Chad, and I've brought this up before to you, that with all the movies going on, maybe there could be another way to do this. By the way, if you're just tuning in, this is Lighting the Void. I'm Joe Roop. We're here live on the Fringe FM. We're here with Chad Meek, nephew of George Van Tassel, also owner of Giant Rock the Movie, and the website is giantrockthemovie.com, producer. But what I mean by this, Chad, is... you know, the George Van Tassel story is great. I've even looked at, you can find his interview on YouTube, and I'm not saying put your movie on YouTube, but just to let you know that, you know, YouTube is increasingly becoming like a platform that's no longer forms like video stretching from between 5 to 15 minutes. Now they're hours long, and more people are watching this stuff, actually. The shift coincides with a massive jump in time spent by consumers viewing videos on their smartphones. Users now spend 54% of their video viewing time watching content from more than 20 minutes at a time. So it's actually up to 30% up on viewing time on YouTube as it is from 2 years ago. So I can't imagine what it is on Netflix and stuff now, you know. And we've talked about that, putting it on something like that. But I guess it would be cool to see it in the box office as well,
Wow, it's like this. I mean, the other thing too is, and this is more of a technical thing. I'd really like to shoot this thing in film. It's gonna, and that's part of another thing as far as the cost and as far as I'd like to shoot this thing in film, because if you ever see movies like Let There Be Blood or what,
that's a good one.
Movies like even movies like Giant and what have you, man, I tell you, if it's shot well, and this is a big outdoor movie too. I mean, you're out there in the desert, and you've got all these great potential scenes out there, and so in order to do it justice, if you shoot in video, it's gonna be okay. I mean, if I have to shoot a video, I definitely shoot on video, no doubt about it. But there's a difference between shooting in film and video. And again, I mean, the whole experience, and it's like this. I kind of think, I'm holding out for it. I mean, but I haven't had any offer for any kind of live stream or any other thing too. And this stuff still takes money because it's an epic. We're talking, although I've crunched it into this, to kind of compress the time on it. Still, there's just so many. You talk about costumes. And you're talking about really going from 1930 to the ending of his 1963. So, you've got an era piece, so that means your set designs and things like that, it's all got to kind of transition all the way through.
Yeah, you can't just film it like Clerks at a grocery store and be done with it, right?
Right. This is not a movie. I mean, they say never make a movie centered around the restaurant. Well, although there is a restaurant, but there's also too there's all kinds of different things too. This is not a Woody Allen flick where you get a bunch of four talking heads talking about this. There's a certain amount of action that obviously is going on, and there's the CGI factor that I'd like to capture. Yeah, and I'm a lover of movies like Star Wars, and I mean that whole feeling is an amazing odyssey as far as that. So, but again, I mean, like I said, I haven't had any other offers as far as this stuff. I've been through a couple of went to a couple of things, but now it's a little different. And also too, the financing is changing right now, and it's Bitcoin is probably going to be a real viable alternative to start financing stuff, and it's starting to turn. Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies took a real beating, earlier this year, but now they're actually starting to sustain themselves. They're starting to make a comeback, and I actually think that that's going to be the future as far as finance goes, and especially film and what have you. And which actually would give a filmmaker like me some leeway, as far as that whole, that whole way of financing is by far superior, to what we've got right now.
Well,
incidentally,
that does make me wonder about how these alien races and stuff. I mean, how did they do that? Did they have money? Did they have cryptocurrency? I mean, little bitty stuff like that. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks about stuff like that, but that's what cryptocurrency reminds me of. Some type of currency that these a highly advanced race would use, maybe, instead of just paper money. I mean, damn, when are we going to get past that?
Well, when you think about it, again, what do we have as far as backing all this stuff? And this is the argument for it. We have $21 trillion worth of debt. And I mean, and so we've, increased the debt by $1 trillion. This, Sir Donald add another $1 trillion, which has already been, integrated within the whole system. And so we live in this whole debt-based world and society. So what happens when that goes away? And every paper currency ever invented through via the Chinese and the Byzantines, whatever, all of them failed. Eventually, all of them failed. And so what is replacement? Well, I think we're seeing it, although the birthing pains are quite extensive. But I think the real opportunity is to, but the key thing is branding. I mean, one of the great liberal or the whole democracy as far as Bitcoin goes is that you primarily need a brand. In fact, there's one coin that did extraordinarily well, and had literally nothing other than a brand called the Dog E coin. And that guy, it was kind of a social experiment. And
but everybody's doing it now, though, right? Like, seems like, On Stellar and all these people, they got their own blockchains and all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, man, I mean, it's cool when there's 3 or 4 currencies, but when there's 90 of them, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me after that.
Well, when you think about it, what's the difference? I mean, again, okay, now just check this out. I mean, I was thinking, okay, there's Uncle Sam. He's next to me. He's offering his currency as far as that goes, and it's backed by the full faith and government of the United States. That's what he's got. Okay, but there's nothing behind it other than full faith, as far as that goes. And as far as the growth rate, if you keep on going into, catastrophic debt, eventually the printing presses and Karl Marx, he wrote a book about this stuff, and that eventually capitalism will fall on its own weight. We're seeing that right now. And so eventually, without continual debt creation, capitalism will fall. Well, there's a point in this whole equilibrium where that will have to fall. But what's the difference between, I don't have any debt, and like as far as like Giant Rock goes, I mean, at least you'll have a shot of representing something of a film and doing something interesting as far as with the world, in the whole world of that. But I'm not stopping there either. I mean, there's a whole different thing as far as, that I want to continue with all research and development of
well, I think it'd be cool if somebody actually finished it.
Yeah. Also, renewable, sustainable building. I mean, there's a whole bunch. I'd like to take this and also, start doing additional other feature films and other, productions as far as that through, we'll call it Giant Rock Enterprises. Right now, it's Clarity Resources, what I have, which actually is a public company, but it's the animal. And the bottom line is, what's the difference? I mean, as far as I don't have $21 trillion worth of debt, so I mean, and again, it's almost the same, I mean, it's actually, I think it'd be better because you get something for your money versus what are you getting with that? I mean, all you're doing is getting more debt upon compounded debt.
Well, think about this just for a second, okay? And I'm not trying to play conspiracy theorist here, but
it's okay.
It is one of the, I mean, if a UFO journalist really looked into, let's say, every story of ufology, right, and tried to get the real deal on everything, Giant Rock and the Integratron would be, if I was a government and I found out that it was real, I'd probably try to cover it up. I mean, do you think possibly that, agencies of our government that take note of these older mysteries have done a good job? Maybe they have been keeping us distracted from it with distracting other stories.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. No, Joe. Listen. I mean, essentially. I mean, by design, literally. I mean, and this is a conversation that went on between Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt during World War II, because all the pilots, the English pilots who were fighting over the channel, they'd run into these UFOs out there. They called them Foo Fighters, and it was pandemic as far as the sightings with these with these pilots that were seeing these. And Churchill did everything he could to squash this whole talk about these these UFOs that were out there. And and he actually wrote a letter because he was concerned that if people, in fact, embrace the whole extraterrestrial, idea, that they would stop going to church, stop honoring the Queen, stop paying taxes, and that there would be some sort of anarchy. Now, Orson Welles, I guess, kind of, they did that kind of. They say that was kind of a government experiment.
Like a mass hysteria experiment.
Yeah, with the War of the Worlds, that in fact, and so they were so worried about that whole public. And then it got to a point of, okay, first of all, the United States government is a corporation. I mean, it's the biggest monster. It's not a government. I mean, it really is. It's really one big, massive corporation. That's really what it is. And so anything that's going to compete with that, and this is what I keep on talking about, is Mystery Babylon. if you got the currency, you got control of the currency, you got control of religion, you got control of the politics, you got control of the human psyche. So really what we have is, and this is the truth, is what we are, is we're all a bunch of slaves. Everything is it points to slavery.
You're all a bunch of slaves. Funny you bring that up.
First of all, mandatory is, essentially, depending on what state you live in California, it's 50%. They want to pay 50%. The other states, they take a little bit lesser slice.
Let's talk about that for a second, okay?
Yeah.
Just for a second. We brought this up last night about the slave race mentality or the slave mentality. Now, I'm not sure how if your uncle went into this at all, but I do know that he said, that they seeded us. They even brought the animals to the earth, They brought animals to populate Earth when Earth experienced a pole shift. The average temperature cooled to accommodate the space people, I guess, and so they could establish colonies for their males on the Earth. And then they took interest in the females. So kind of like the Bible story was true, basically what he was saying. However, he talks about the setting up of the race. The 10 Commandments that were given to Moses were set as just guidelines to live. The manna even said that Mother Mary was a space person herself, sent to Earth to impregnate a space person. Jesus, right?
Mother Anna, right.
What he doesn't talk about a lot, or at least I haven't figured out from researching George, is it a slave? Did they set it up as a slave system society to keep us dumbed down from knowing everything? I mean, I understand how they seeded things, but I'm not so sure it wasn't like a project that just went awry and they just backed off and just let it did what it do,
Well, I think what happened is in fact, that some of Stitch's work is they talk about, they had this big revolt of all the, the whole gold miners and what have you, and that went wrong. And then so they actually reinvented, they really took the hominoid and started to change the DNA structure, but in order to make us work, they had to give us godlike features, but they couldn't give us all of the features, so they literally structurally engineered us to fail and to be adherent, but could reason, et cetera, the Pandora's box as far as what we are, and this is why we have like 7 billion people, is that we have this divinity within ourselves. And it's kind of, and again, I equate this into, like click on your heels.
Right.
You can figure it out.
But we're awful stupid sometimes. I mean, just now, they just found out, or they claim they just found out, that we've roughly, waste $1 trillion in food each year that never reached the consumer's plate. Now, if we're an advanced society, I think we would figure out what to do with that, or if we had godlike intelligence. Yet, the technology says so, but it's really, I don't even want to say it, but it really feels like there's advanced people on this planet, and then there's just, half primates walking around thumping themselves.
It's all part of the, obviously, in fact, I was interested we bring this up because I was watching the Neanderthals as far as, what had happened to them, and actually how they're finding Neanderthal blood within our own DNA strain as far as that stuff goes. So we're definitely a work in progress as far as that stuff goes. But the real beauty part about it is, and this is the hope, the hope is that we literally do have this divinity of our creators, as far as that, and that's a general thread in there. But trying to get there, and I mean literally which it's almost I actually pinned this little treatment for an animated thing called Dope World, where literally basically everyone could it's kind of dystopian world where literally you'd go in and you get all the dope you want, but you have to do it at Dope World. And you could actually get all, they had a big fence around you, and you took all the dope you wanted as far as that while you're in there. And you could get out, you could have a rehab section, you get out, but it was the jobs of the various custodians to get you back in to Dope World. And that whole cat and mouse thing as far as that goes, it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff here. It's like, they give you enough, but boy, I tell you what, it's challenging as far as, trying to overcome the body, and trying to overcome yourself as far as this whole, self-perfection journey. As far as that, it's easier said than done.
Did your uncle ever talk about what happened to humans after they die? Did he talk about the soul? Did he ever bring that stuff up?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember what he said about the.
All the information I found is pretty much about just life and trying to extend it or get it to the way, that it's supposed to be with cell rejuvenation. But I haven't found a lot of where any of these alien races talk to him about the soul or spirit, or even though we know it's real, it's just, I wonder why that's not brought up. That would be one of the first questions that I would ask him.
He was a self-educated man, and I think, and again, there was no internet out in Landers. In fact, for a while there, we didn't have any phone.
Right.
Finally, phone was a big deal. We actually at my grandmother's house. In fact, at the Rock, they had that phone on the side of the wall. As far as that stuff goes, and you have a party line. You have 4 or 5 people sharing that damn line
the
there.
Good
It's
old
kind of like
days.
Hooterville. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're talking about somebody who's basically just pouring over a lot of information, and kind of developing stuff too. And as far as his various contact, I mean, he was a meditator also as a channeler, so he was getting a lot of stuff. But it's kind of a culmination of his own research, his own meditation, his own channeling. One of the things he channeled a bunch of interesting entities. One of them was Ashtar, which is this whole community called Ashtar Command. I don't know if you were aware of it. Huge, community. And my uncle's the first one to channel Ashtar, and as far as that, and there's is an entity that's out there in a huge spaceship and what have you. So, I mean, he's quite involved. He cataloged about 105 different species of extraterrestrials.
Huh.
So, I mean, so this gets past the Greys, the Reptilians, the Nordics, the Blue Avians
blue
right now.
Yeah. Well, he also said that the flying saucers were actually what we thought were legitimate spaceships. He said they were just scout ships. That's all they were scout ships that had came down from a mothership or something like that.
Yeah, well, getting into that that's an interesting segue as far as that. I seen one of the biggest motherships I saw was in Utah, and I've had, I guess, I call it the whether fortunate or misfortune, but I've been very fortunate in basically stumbling on this stuff. And one of the things too, and this is in how this sets up, there's a couple of very interesting events that occurred almost within days of each other in Utah. One of which was I fell asleep on my couch and I was watching TV, and I woke up. My uncle was on Discovery Sunday, and he was on TV. I could hear his voice, and I woke up and I see my uncle on TV. Now this is coming from. It was based on one of his 1960 conversations in front of the Integratron, talking about what it is. So I'm waking up. This is like 1995. I wake up and there's my uncle on TV. Now, coincidence? Yeah, you're great. That's a weird. There's so many coincidences. Okay, that was one. And then I went back to sleep. And then he told me that I should go up the mountains, and that I should go up the mountains next day, and that I'd see a huge ship. I'd have a sighting, and he kind of came to me in a dream, and it was just a real weird experience. So I did. I trucked up the mountain. We lived at the foot of this beautiful, beautiful mountains, Wasatch Front. So I go up there, and I sit up there for a couple hours. And Well, nothing happened. And I thought, oh well, Chad, you're a real idiot. You go walking up here on a dream and a TV show. And as I got to the base of it, all of a sudden I saw this huge, gigantic rainbow ship, and it was like 3 football fields, oblong, and it was just moseying on down the valley, just kind of cruising on down, And so I'm sitting there watching this thing.
What shape was it?
Well, it was like a rounded football, like it was like 3 football lengths, but almost the same with the corners cut off. It was round, what is it? An oval or I guess an oval shape.
Yeah.
As far as that, it wasn't round; it was oval, and so it was an extended, and it had these brilliant rainbow color, red, green, and blue had these beautiful colors surrounding it. It was perfect. It was just perfect.
Now, when you say rainbow, do you mean like rainbow as in the color of a rainbow, real bright, or rainbow as in what it looks like when oil meets water rainbow?
No. Like a real rainbow, like a rainbow, a rainbow from one side to the other. When you see a rainbow,
okay, the
rainbow colors. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was majestic, and I just stood there in awe. Absolutely. Just it was brilliant watching this thing. It was extremely thin. It just moseyed on by. It was like something. Okay, so I got my message, got my sighting, went home. And later on, the news comes on, and this announcer from the CBS affiliate, Dick Norris, which I remember his name, talks. He says many people in the Utah Valley and Idaho have seen this rainbow ship. Well, scientists claim that this is these are rainbows. That this is a phenomenon that occurs, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there going, you are so full of crap. Rainbows go from one end to the other as far as that stuff goes. So, rainbows go from one end to the other. We've seen what a rainbow is. They don't fly like that, and they don't look like that. So, and they don't go down. Well, apparently, I guess there were the phones were ringing off the hook to this KCL affiliate about this rainbow ship that was just moseying on down as far as that. So that was it. But in the same time period, I'm not sure whether it was 3 days. This is the Clyde Lewis story. Now,
well, hold on a second.
For those,
can we hold that? Can we take a break and then you tell me the Clyde Lewis story when we come back?
Sure.
We're at the halfway point here. I didn't want to get too far into it and leave everybody else hanging, but yeah, we do got to take a break. And then, because Clyde's, this is interesting because I know he started radio back in the 90s. That's another thing I wanted to talk to you about was these radio shows. And anyways, we'll talk about that when we get back. Stick around. We'll be right back. More with Chad Meek from GiantRockTheMovie.com. We're talking about the George Van Tassel story. We'll be right back.
Is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Light in the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussel, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Greetings, galactic community. This is Suzanne Ross, host of Sci-Spy Radio, every Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. Join me for this brand new show featuring a revolutionary new genre, Sci-Spy, merging science and spirituality to give us answers to the greatest mysteries of creation. Together, scientific discovery and spiritual revelation reveal the truth about who we are, where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Tune in to Sci-Spy Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific and discover the truth for yourself at thefringe.fm.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. And purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
And if you don't want to call in, you can text in too. That's 501-777-5631. You can also contact the show via email at contact@lightingthevoid.com. Don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. It's free. And we're here with Chad C. Meek from GiantRockTheMovie.com. And before the break, we've been talking about George Van Tassel, the story, the Integratron, a foundational story of ufology. And the reason why I bring up Clyde Lewis is because he's got a huge show right now. I mean, everybody knows that. He's one of the, if not the biggest show out there, in my opinion, on this. He talks a little bit more conspiratorial stuff than I do, but it seems like the guy came out of nowhere. And I can see why a lot of people follow the guy. And you were actually on his show. And how long ago was that, by the way?
We're talking about this has been circa 1996.
1996.
Yeah. So, what, brother, what are we talking about here, man? We're talking
That's a long damn time. That's more than 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah. And actually, this is a weird, great story. Okay, so I'm minding my own business, which is what I do. Which is what I do the best. I'm one of the best persons of minding their own business. The phone rings, okay, and this very, very, baritone voice, calls up and starts pitching me on buying some ad space. Now, I don't know how in the hell this guy got my phone number, because I had, at the time I was running a mining business in Nevada and up in Alaska, and I was, I don't know how he got a hold of me. I have no idea. It's just one of serendipitous, weird things.
Yeah, he's a journalist. He found you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, really. So I'm talking to the guy, okay, and I'm, I'm a businessman, and so I'm polite. I listen to people. I mean, if you try to pitch you something, I'm going to listen. If I can buy it, I'll buy it. If not, I'll tell you right up front, I can't buy it.
I'm not interested. Click. No.
I'm not interested. But but God, I was just enamored with his voice tone, and I kept on telling. I said, "Man, your voice." I said, "Man, it sounds really, man, you got a nice voice," and I finally, anyway. So I'm talking to him. So he's trying to sell me ad space from a radio station, okay. And I finally talked to, towards the end, I said, "Well, no, I'm not interested, but but I'm going to leave something with you." I said, "If there's ever a voice that needs to be on radio, it's yours." He goes, "Well, I have to admit to you," he says, I have my own show called Ground Zero, and it's on AM FM radio show in Murray, Utah. And I started talking. I go, "What's it about?" He says, "Well, it's about UFOs, and it's about UFOs. It's about conspiracies. It's about Bigfoot. It's about all this stuff." And I said, "Oh, wow!" I said, and that's when I began to talk to him about. And I said, "Well, did you ever hear of my uncle George Van Tassel?" And he goes, "Yeah, I did. I've heard of him." Well, and so that was really strange in that, that whole serendipitous conversation. That's what started off. But I looked down, and this is something out of the effing Twilight Zone. There's a spaceship that was in my palm. It was a small toy spaceship. It was in my palm. And I kept looking at this little spaceship, and I'm talking to Clyde Lewis, and he's talking about all this stuff, and I'm telling him. And I told him, I said, I got a little toy spaceship, and I didn't have any kids, any little kids or anything like that, but it was a perfect little toy spaceship that was in the palm of my hand. I don't know where it came from. And I'm looking at this, and this is the craziest damn thing I ever experienced. And I kept on looking at this damn thing, and I'm talking to Clyde Lewis. And he goes, "Well, what do you do?" I said, "Well, it's funny that you asked." I said, "Yeah, I've had my own experience. I've been I was abducted. I've had contact out there. A lot of strange stuff happened. I'm an astrologer also. So the conversation went on for about, honest to God, it went for 2.5 to 3 hours. The conversation just went blah, 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 blah. And this damn spaceship's in the palm of my hand. I'm holding it just up like that. And then, anyway, so finally he goes, "Well, hey, I want to get you on my show." I said, "Well, at that time I'd never done a radio show. I didn't know anything about it." He says, "Would you do some readings for my radio people on the air?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "I'll do it. You bet." And so anyway, he said, "I'll call you back, give you time." And I hung up the phone. Okay. And I was kind of jazzed about how amazing the world was, and how, what an interesting meeting. I'm talking to this guy, as far as that. But when I closed, I said, "Hey man, you need, you're going to go far in your radio." This is in 1995, 1996 circa.
Yeah.
And so anyways, so I put the phone down, and I get a glass of water, and I could not find that damn spaceship for the life of me. I tore my house apart looking for that little spaceship, and I could never find it.
So a little bitty spaceship just showed up in your hands.
And it showed up in my hand. It's the weirdest frickin' thing that ever happened to me as far as that goes. Yeah, and I couldn't find. And my wife had come home. She was she was an alternative medicine practitioner anyway. So she came home, and I literally ripped the whole house apart. It was driving me insane because I couldn't find that little spaceship.
I would too if I came home and you'd rip the house apart, and I said, "What are you doing?" Well, I'm looking for a spaceship that was in my hand a minute ago.
Yeah. You know, at that time, let me see, I think we've been married 16 years. So anyway, it's kind of went. Yeah, but yeah, she's kind of known some of this stuff. But at any rate, so that was it. You know, so then I went on the Clyde Lewis show, and then you know, Clyde, I guess he got big, you know, over there, and now he's a big. He's number. Oh, I guess he's actually higher rating than Coast to Coast.
Yeah, in a lot of places he is. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I guess there's 3 of the main top 25 in the whole radio world is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church,
which you've been on that show too, right?
Yeah, so show, yeah.
Here's my question: one of the biggest stories in ufology that's ever been told. A lot of people are trying to tell it or be a part of it, but you're the closest one to it, as far as George goes, that I know of, that's telling this story in a big way, in an informative way. And you've got a book, and you're making a movie about it. And this is what bothers me, because I feel like the narrative's being controlled. Now, I understand that the Corey Good thing gets picked on because it's big time and stuff like that, but why? And I'm not talking about just your story. Obviously, your story is one of the bigger ones in this field. But why aren't you on these bigger shows? In my opinion, the story needs to be on these bigger shows. Like, it really does. So if anybody's listening that listens to these, you know, that has anything to do with these other shows, if you want to get behind something that's probably closer to real than the avian thing, I think this is it. You know?
It's interesting. Hey, you know what? As far as that, number one, I generally I don't like the one thing I don't. Part of my movie making things is I have a hard time sucking up. You know, as far as that, so I'm not.
Yeah, I don't see it at a lot of conferences and stuff, Chad.
You know, I know. So it's kind of one of those things, you know, as far as that. And the other thing too is you know, God, I mean, it's just been. You know, I mean, if you go on the net, man, I'm all over the damn place, and I'm kind of thinking, Jesus Christ, you know, I'm wondering myself. I mean, as far as some of this stuff, but you know, I don't have an answer, you know, and so and the other thing too is, yeah, I mean, the other thing too is the contact out in the desert, you know, a lot of this stuff, I mean. I don't know. You know,
what I'm saying is, I know what you're trying to say, and I'll say it. Okay, I believe that some, you could say intelligence or government, I don't know what the hell it is, has infiltrated this community in some type of way, whether knowingly or unknowingly, has kept us distracted from real things that are going on. In a very big way. I can't point my finger at radio hosts.
Yeah, I can't either.
Anybody, but I know something is going on, man.
It's like a tennis game. You know, everyone's moving their head back and forth, watching the tennis ball, while everyone else, there's a thief down in the bottom of the bleacher, still in everyone's wallet. I mean, and that's kind of what we've got going right now with the whole. You know, Corey, I was on a panel, you know, and the first question I get asked is that, do you think Corey Good's for real? Well, you know, first of all, I'm not going to say anything. I mean, as far as that stuff, I said, I don't know. I don't know if he's for real.
Yeah, I don't know if he's for real either. But
yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. But yeah, but the controversy is always in all these things here too, in the politics. And my uncle actually warned me about it, and I've been just trying to go about making a movie and making the economics of this is really what's going to fuel the message. And I think a lot of these people, they get into they don't have any product, you know. They get into the me first. They get the you know, they completely get the horse before the cart, you know, as far as this whole thing. Now I don't know where. You know, you
mean the cart before the horse? You mean, right?
Yeah. It's the cart before the horse. And I'm thinking, okay, what I want to do is, and what I've been trying to do is just say, hey, listen, let's let the movie speak for itself as far as that. And so that's been my main focus. Now, as far as again, I mean, I'm not. Listen, I have no problem talking to you or anybody else or any of my other friends as far as any of this stuff here. I don't have any problem. But I have not been, I have not been invited. As far as this, Jimmy Church reached out to me, and he had been trying to get a hold of me for a year, and finally found me. And as far as that, but I don't know. And so it's one of those things that's just kind of, do my time. And the other thing too is I have a real sense that there's a lot of events that are coming together right now. And I think that this whole story of the whole narrative of this story of Giant Rock is probably more important now, more timely now than it was 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or whatever. That's what I really truly believe, and I believe it's kind of like a fine wine. It's being it's essentially aged, as far as that goes, and I really do. Now, it's very, very painful because of course. I probably have about $150,000 in this stuff of, out of pocket money, making trailers and things like that and what have you. It's just in all the, running around and what have you. It's an expensive business,
You sound like Howard Hughes, brother.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
I'm talking about my money.
Yeah,
remember
my
that
money.
when he's in the courtroom? We're talking about my money.
Howard Hughes stuck money in the Integratron. My uncle was able to get, he had this is one of the really neat things about him, is he had well over 100,000 subscribers to his newsletter, and the donations poured in. I mean, so not only did he get sweat equity through the family, including my dad building the Integratron and all that, he got grants from Howard Hughes that would come out, eat my aunt's boysenberry pie, fly whatever plane that he had,
really?
Bring what? Oh yeah, he used to fly out there. I supposedly in the restaurant, I supposedly ate some pancakes sitting next to Howard Hughes. I was told that I was actually sitting. I didn't know who Howard Hughes was back then, but he was regular. He'd come out and fly his planes out there and land it, and he was actually the same. Howard Hughes is a very intriguing person, and he had his own UFO experiences too. But and my uncle, of course, worked with him at Hughes Aircraft. He was, a flight engineer, and my uncle's no dummy. He's mechanically adept. Could do a lot of different things that get stuff done, and so he kind of made a name for himself with Mr. Howard Robard Hughes. So he'd pop out there. So we've got all this culture and all this history. As far as with this whole thing, and one of the deals I had that I actually turned down was a group out of Shanghai, and they wanted to come, but they didn't want me involved in the production or in any capacity. What they wanted to do, they wanted to buy the screen rights, for it, and they wanted to take it back there to make the movie, and that was, they'd give me an offer, but I had turned it down. But I did. One of the guys who spoke English, I asked, I said, why would you guys be interested? And of course, I had this one woman, she was working for me trying to find cash for the movie. And I asked him, I said, why are you interested? He says, because people around the world love Western Americana. And I thought about it. I thought, you know what? You're absolutely
especially
right.
This story. I mean,
especially this one.
You guys got to read the book, man. Like, as soon as I started reading the book, I couldn't stop flipping through the page. I couldn't stop reading it. And you know how I am with books. Like, it's hard for me to explain. Like, this is another one of those stories that, to be honest with you, Chad, I can't say, oh, I 120% believe in George and everything. But I will say that it seems more real to me than what's been going on. That's why I've always invited you back on the show. That's why I've always wanted to keep talking to you about this, because it seems like there's something to it. And what I'm trying to say is if you had a marketing team like this, Gaia did or whatever, we would all be surrounded by this story now, which I think something, and I've heard a couple other journalists talk about this, where they actually believe that the CIA is getting involved. And they just kind of do little things to keep us distracted. Now, I always suspected this, especially when To the Stars came out. Like, as soon as we figure something out, they get us distracted and running off on something else. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Sure.
And it's real easy for them to do.
It's all about controlling the narrative. And that is really the most important. And as far as the story goes, this thing's copyrighted. I mean, I control the narrative on this. And you know what? I think what's happened to me is they've kind of strangulated me from the various money sources. But it's like even you talk about To the Stars. They grabbed latched a hold of a rock singer, but then they sit there and they infiltrate this whole thing with a bunch of CIA people, which is fine too, I guess. But I get nervous. All that stuff makes me a lot of nervous. I mean, I don't know about you, and Tom DeLonge, I don't even know a Blink 182 song, but anyways. But I read up on this stuff here, and now he's the darling as far as within the whole thing there, and I wish him a lot of luck. But I also too, it kind of makes me nervous. I think that maybe a lot of times people, they get over their head and they get kind of used by the powers that be. Yeah. And even though these people are supposedly retired,
I hope you're not taking this wrong, because I'm seeing comments in the chat room. I'm not talking about Chad making his movie is not a conspiracy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the narratives that we're being fed versus some of the actual stories that have been told since the 50s that could easily be told this way, that could have movies made about them or big-time radio hosts getting behind them. All it takes is a marketing team to come up to you, and this is another problem that I have, because I've actually seen this happen. And I'm going to warn some of you guys about this. You take something, let's say, for example, and I wish I could name names here, but I can't. Something really happens. You experience it. Something really happens. And then somebody with money steps in and they go, yeah. I know this really happened to you, but I can't sell it that way. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add some things and spice it up. And now you got this whole other damn story. Besides the real information.
Well, fire in the sky. I think you talked about fire in the sky.
Well, no. I mean, that could be a good example of it. But now you got this whole other story that don't have nothing to do with what really happened for selling purposes. Yeah. And this is why we keep going in circles. Meanwhile, if there is any intelligence involved in this community, they're sitting back laughing their asses off. It
could be. I honest to God, I actually, there's a part of me that says, I just sense that what you're saying, there's something to this as far as that. The thing about it is I'm, ingrained or indoctrinated in the whole thing. Well, maybe I haven't done something, or maybe I haven't done this, or maybe I need to do this. But you know what? I'm running out of, I'm running out of that stuff as far as that stuff. And when I listen to people, as far as even new people come in, well, you need to do this. You need to do that.
Everybody's telling you what you need to do.
I've already done that. You need to go GoFundMe, or you need to go crowdfunding. Oh yeah, I've done that.
There is a question in the chat room though from Joseph K. Is the script? What is the script about? Is it in a chronological narrative? Is the book set up like a script for the movie?
Yes, it is. Actually, the book, the first half of the book is actually the screenplay, and then the second half is the sequel. So it's really set up. I mean, the book reads like a movie, and it reads really quick. It's 266 pages, and I'm telling you what, I've had people telling me it's one of the fastest books they've ever read, which is good. Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate compliment, because if somebody can't stop reading the damn thing, you're on to halfway decent story, and because you're not bogged down, et cetera, it's substantive as far as that. They just go like, whoa, it's one hell of a ride. It really is. It's a great ride. It's a lot of fun. The movie, I figure I was made to make this damn movie. I mean, I've got the 20-second time slots, down as far as that. I mean, there are stories within stories within stories within stories. They're actually, and it's going to affect pretty much at every level. It's the demographic. That's what I think this is an actual gold mine. And I'm not just saying this because it's my stuff. I'm just saying because of the demographics, because there's something there for somebody, you're going to identify on a soul level with a lot of these characters, because generally that was how it was designed and what have you. And there's about 3 different levels, and actually there's some higher esoteric stuff that's going on. But I didn't beat people up to death with it, So, but it moved. There's continuity between all of it. So, yeah, I'm happy with the work. I get good reviews on Amazon, what have you. But again, it's like, it's funny, a lot of books, it's funny how all this stuff works, But like again, it's a fine wine, and I think we're gonna do it. So anybody wants to come in and talk to me about doing something, heck, I'm all ears. Heck, I'll be happy to talk with them as far as that stuff goes. So if you got any money, if you got any money,
send it to Chad. He'll tell you. Yeah,
I need Buster up to Hollywood.
Like Joseph's taking, it could be an 8 to 10 episode series. I mean, look.
Easily. It could be, actually, the book is probably about 16 different episodes. It could actually constitute 16 episodes as far as this stuff. It's all there. So yeah, well, anyways, yeah.
I'd rather watch that.
I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit embarrassed. I don't know what to say, as far as the whole thing. But yeah, it definitely, when I look at this stuff, and I've seen. Listen, I'm a movie buff, and I've seen I've seen the storylines of just about everything. This is new, it's fresh, and it tells this narrative that will blow people away as far as the whole thing, So yeah.
Well, I know it's when I bring up conspiracy here, and we're at the top of the hour, but when I bring up conspiracy, I don't mean to say that, like your movie, they're not letting your movie out because it's a big damn conspiracy. What I mean is the CIA has been involved in a lot of things when it comes to this stuff. They've been involved with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Hell, they've also been involved in Noah's Ark. I mean, it's all there. So anytime we come across a narrative like this or some story that's happened, they investigate it. Not only do they investigate it, we know for a fact that their best and most powerful tool is disinformation. We know that. And so it doesn't take much to take a community like ours and put it in a tailspin. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's funny when you talk about all the spooks and what have you that were out there. I've lost the name of that guy. He died. He had this. God, he had one of the gigantic podcasts, UFO podcasts. For somebody I can't remember the damn name. I was on it. No, it wasn't Art Bell. Damn.
Maybe you'll think we got to take a break anyways. I'd like to hear about it if he was on a big one. But yeah, we'll be right back. If you got any questions, you can put them in caps in the chat room. I forgot to tell you guys, we're also over on the Spreaker chat, or you can go to thefringefm.com/chat for the 24/7 Discord chat. But we'll be right back right after these messages.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up. Standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in. The Fringe FM.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. Not just one, but 3 asteroids whizzed past us Earthlings on Saturday between 4 and 7 miles per second. Space Rock 2018 VX-1, which is taller than a house, was discovered just last week. NASA predicted it would come the closest to the Earth within 237,000 miles. 2018 VS-1 and 2018 VR-1 are 2 to 3 times bigger, but they were much further out in the atmosphere. Imagine something the size of a football field or larger coming right at you, man. A 2-year chase of the asteroid Bennu has resulted in a stunning video of the rock spinning out in space. NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft took shots from every angle over 4 hours. Bennu is shaped like a diamond and measures more than 1,600 feet across. The probe will reach the asteroid in a few weeks and slip into orbit around it on New Year's Eve, beginning a 2-year study up close and personal, including obtaining a sample of the rock and sending it back to Earth in a capsule in 2023. In a historical moment, NASA's Parker Solar Probe has made its first close pass to the sun. It came within 15 million miles of the surface and set the speed record of over 213,000 miles an hour. Due to the sun's powerful radio wave light that drowns out communications with Earth, the spacecraft was essentially on its own for a few days in a blackout. It will send a signal in the form of beeps to indicate everything is okay. That will give engineers a better sense of what to expect when the first data is beamed back in early December.
A status beacon sent on November 7th indicates all instruments are running and collecting science data.
Parker will study the sun's corona to solve long-standing mysteries and should help improve forecasts of space weather, which can affect spacecraft and astronauts in orbit, as well as communications on Earth.
2 more passes are scheduled next April and September. Just over a year from now, the probe will complete the second of 7 flybys of Venus. Parker launched in August on a $1.5 billion mission over 7 years, with 24 passes by the sun, each moving closer than the previous one. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Think about that, though. Yeah, I'm going to bring that up for sure. All right, here we go. All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. We're here with Chad Meek. GiantRockTheMovie.com is the website. And before the break, we were discussing conspiracies that, stories and narratives, distractions, disinfo, things that try to cover up stories. And we're talking about his uncle, right? People that try to cover up these stories. George Van Tassel. And he had his own experiences with that, too. So I know it's real. Right, Chad? I mean, didn't the CIA or the FBI... I know the FBI tried to spread rumors about him, saying that he was crazy or deranged or whatever, and was... think hard about that, though. If he was really crazy and it was such a wild story, why would they even care?
I think this was, in fact, as far as movements go, there was... this is the precursor to the Vietnam peace movement. I mean, this kind of, it's this perennial, movement of peace and brotherly love and what have you that pops up, and the powers that be want to snuff it out. And so during the 50s, because they were anti-nuclear, and especially during the 50s and 60s. This was really something that was pissing all the various government authorities off about my uncle and all the people there, because they knew firsthand and based on other challenge sessions that, of course, I talked about this earlier, that all this stuff was doing dramatic damage and what have you. But again, if you were against anything that the United States military industrial complex was against, then you were a enemy of the state. And so when you talk about trying to discredit somebody, which they did, and also too, my uncle was also a very he was kind of a guru, and he had a wandering eye. He was not the most faithful husband as far as that. So I mean, this stuff went down to photographs of him and other women that were sent to my Aunt Eva. So this is the kind of stuff that they would do. And all the phone lines were tapped out there. I mean, everything was tapped. And there was a lot of research that was being done, too, simultaneously. A lot of stuff besides this whole time travel thing, going on. This one physicist and him were doing all kinds of experiments. And he was channeling information, and this physicist was writing down some information, and it was all based on time travel. And that's where that thing kind of morphed from cell rejuvenation to time travel, out there. And so this one physicist, and I actually talked to his son, who's a neurosurgeon. Now I talked to his son, and he told me a story about the Men in Black showing up at his doorstep and told him specifically that if he didn't stop working with George Van Tassel, that they were going to come back and kill him and his family. And this is a neurosurgeon who is the son who witnessed this discourse between these Men in Black, which I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, gee, the Men in Black, I'm thinking Men in Black, as far as, some sort of Tommy Lee Jones and some other cartoon, which is, of course, one of the better disinformation movies that was out there, which essentially made a cartoon of all this stuff. I mean, the thing about it is this fiction thing that a lot of times you're seeing is so, God, I mean, the whole factual, the various things that they try to, comedic up or not take seriously.
Right. Well,
it's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You look at the, for instance, the targeted individuals thing. Well, all you have to do is go to blackvault.com or you could look at Bill Cooper, George Van Tassel, and if you notice that they open up, I don't know, every investigation under the sun on these people, that's a targeted individual. That's somebody that they're trying to get away to shut up. And if he's really that crazy, and like I said, a tinfoil hat guy, then why all the effort? Why all the government money, the tax dollars, the multiple investigations, just to discredit or get them to shut up?
Right. Well, that's what happens. That's the reality of our world. Now, I think that they're more subtle now. I mean, one of the things too, and again, this gets into some really weird stuff. I mean, they have the ability to triangulate everyone and everything. Everything is spoken, everything, et cetera, et cetera. And in anticipation, they have ways of doing things. Now, again, this gets into the whole conspiracy stuff, and I just hate living in that world. But the truth is, I believe that there's some really darker forces, and we see it manifest itself in all kinds of stuff. I mean, look at if you turn on the television now, you're going to see nothing but distraction. People are, families are being broken up. Everything is so divisive. I mean, it's just incredible. We're seeing this unfold through our various eyes, as far as this. Now, and this is all, these are all the lesser gods or the demon gods that are out there basically pulling the strings. And one of the things that everyone's fearful for is, I think, as far as it always has been, is disclosure, because in fact, if it's almost you can't believe in both. It's either or. Either our way of doing business as the government and our political and our Judeo-Christian lifestyle, either that's bullshit or UFOs. Bullshit. Well, I mean, more and more now, we're basically seeing, what's what, and so right. I think that the grip. I think that whole ascension or enlightenment. I mean, I know a lot of the there's a buzzword of ascension, what have you, but this enlightenment is, I think that's probably the precursor of true freedom, anyways, because I mean.
Well, that's why I asked you earlier what your uncle thought about life after death and all this, because it seems to me that he was brought up in a religious atmosphere, and I don't say that he's wrong about the Bible, but he said that that this race intermarried with intelligent, upright, walking animals, and that was what the Bible calls Eve. Then when they did not land. I guess when that didn't happen, but ever since Adam came first, or I'm trying to figure out what he was saying here. So Adam came first, and then when they when they mated, that's how they made Eve, and they turned it into this big story. So he kind of stayed with the Bible, and so that brings my question to how did they act? I mean, did your family disown them? Because I know mine would. I mean, they kind of already treat me weird because I talk about this stuff on a radio show, but man, if I went out in public and was on TV and stuff, I don't really know how they would treat me. You know what I mean?
Well, I think, mostly, any kind of funerals in our family, my father was the youngest of 10 kids, and most of the people, most of my aunts and uncles were all successful small business owners, in Southern California, and everyone drove a Cadillac, and of course, if everyone smoked 3 packs of cigarettes, also you'd die of asphyxiation of back in the day, as far as that goes. But they were all essentially Republican, type things, and although it was the snicker, it wasn't the George, you're out of your mind. It was the snicker. I mean, and I love it because my mother was one of the most antagonistic critic of my Uncle George until my sister Jan, my mother, and myself were walking out at a very warm night out in the desert. It was and we got buzzed by a low flying UFO, a us, with the lights and everything, basically just buzzed the hell out of us. From that date on, my mother shut up about Uncle George.
Okay.
And again, I have people come to me and they say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this." So my first response is, "I don't care."
Yeah, I get that now, but back. What I'm saying is back then, if you look at Edgar Cayce,
it was bad. No, it was kind of. It was.
If you were going to tell a story,
really,
well, if you related it to the Bible, then it would be okay. And what I was trying to say earlier is when the space people came back and the supply ships, they saw what had happened and didn't land. But ever since, due to the origin of Adam, they have watched over the people on Earth. So now they're called the Watchers, right? And so I'm thinking, well, if I'm George and I tell people, okay, this is what's going on, but I relate it to the Bible, maybe they'll take it better, right? You see what I'm saying?
Well, that was his whole thing, and also too, I mean, essentially, I think as far as to classify what he was a Gnostic. He actually had talked a lot about various Gnostic principles, but he also, I don't know if you're familiar with the Urantha group and what have you.
I'm actually reading that right now, trying to figure all that out.
Yeah, right. So I mean, he was, and he actually knew a lot about Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, Catholicism, but also too, most of the stuff that he's saying, which we've seen, manifest itself in various ways, which comes from a lot of Stitchen's work. He was way ahead of the game as far as a lot of this stuff, and how he would do, like for instance, like how you and I will Google something for verification. He would sit there, he would channel, and he would go to the source as far as this of the universal mind. He talks about it endlessly. He goes, people don't understand that all the information that you ever possibly want is through the universal mind. So that was what he did. He would go to the universal mind and meditate, and he would contemplate and then meditate. And that was the formula. Now, as far as, I don't know how many events where he had, Jesus Christ come down and, and tell him this or that. I don't know, but, or if it even happened. But he was quite evolved, and he studied, Vedic, a lot of the very spiritual leaders, he studied them too. So, he was a very, very inquisitive person. I mean, and he was, he was so far ahead of his time, and he was politically dangerous and was deemed an enemy of the state by his people, because what he wanted to do, the main thing they wanted, there were a couple of things. Number one was UFO disclosure, that we weren't alone. That was his big thing, as far as that. It frustrated no end that whole narrative didn't get out. And the other thing too is on a more practical basis, that we were actually destroying with the nitrogen bomb and the various nuclear devices that are being left. We were literally destroying our own planet, which which he felt that because of all the visitors. I mean, the Earth is, as we know it, is mineral rich, and is visited by a lot of different UFO species, and he thought it was wrong to destroy it. But we're doing it now. I mean, so he was literally, some say 50 years ahead of his time. I'm thinking literally, and not because he's my uncle, just because I know of. I mean, God, it's so rich as far as the threads that he was going down for the time. And he had essentially turned his back on all the. Can you imagine this too? The organization he built that literally just went by the wayside. It would put Tony Robbins' organization to sleep, as far as I mean, really, as far as the
Dan brought up in the chat room. It's a bit of a synchronicity because this all kind of adds up to the shows we've been doing, and I didn't plan on this happening. I mean, we did a show about books of truth. We did a show about controlled narratives. And we're talking about the Urantia material. We actually just brought that up, and you just brought that up. It's kind of weird to me. That's like a synchro, but I think we're on the right track here as far as what's going on. It's just that I'm hoping when this dust settles with this other narrative that's going on, when people realize, okay, maybe this isn't necessarily true, doesn't mean it's not all true, that we start back from square one, which to me is the Van Tassel story, Roswell, that stuff, and then we start over, and we just, sometimes you got to do that. You got to go back from square one and work your way back instead of just following whatever you're being told, you know?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I, it's funny. I take, I've taken a lot of dramatic license in the book, but a lot of the stuff too is the stories I've heard or stories and even I got to talk to a lot of people after my uncle had died, and I got a lot of background information that got in the book, that got in my head through stories and what have you. So, as best as I could, I kind of incorporated all that stuff within the book, and kind of, and of course threw in some of my stuff too, and it's really important because, and for me, because the truth of the matter is I've had we were talking about this earlier. I'm thinking maybe about 40 different sightings. This is on top of the abduction experience I had, early on. I mean, literally, I've had spaceships. I've had craft come to me across a city and literally gravitate above my car. So I've had these things happen, and I think it's just a reinforcement of at least my part of the narrative that I need to start. I need to keep screaming this stuff at the top of my lungs, because these things happen to me, and I am unabashedly, I am not ashamed about these experiences I've had. I feel that they're kind of a way to kind of keep pushing me on to keep going. In fact, I had that experience where I had that one ship that it came across. I saw this blinking thing, and all of a sudden it just gyrated all the way over to me and stood above my car. And I was just, and as I was driving, I pulled over and I rolled down my window and I looked up at the thing there. And this has happened just about 5 years ago down here. And it just, it kind of telepathic. I go, my thought was, what do you want? What are you trying? It was just keep going, keep speaking, keep doing whatever you're doing. So that's kind of, in my own way, that's kind of what I've done through the whole through the storyline of Giant Rock, and that was that's what I've been doing. And so regardless of how big a movie I get, the main thing is I want to keep. I definitely, and through the help of you and others, keep the story alive, keep people thinking, keep that hope that one day we're all going to have all of this stuff, that's all going to be out there, and all the nonsensical tit for tat, divisive, nonsensical world that we are living in, it will, it'll dissipate, and it will have some semblance of a greater society and some sort of semblance of peace. And that, I guess that's the thought. Am I better? But during the day, I'm swearing like a truck driver, is frustrating with everything and fighting for every inch of turf. So it's a full head-on battle to get anything done. Everyone knows this. I'm nobody. I don't care what you're doing. Everyone's struggling to keep going and to keep moving forward. And
for sure.
Me too.
I think we got Moon on the phone. Sorry about it. I had to call you back. Sorry, I had to hang up on you. I had the Windows changed my settings. But anyways, what's on your mind, Moon?
Hello? Can
you hear me?
Yeah.
What's on your mind, brother?
Oh, hey, Joe. This is Kevin. How you doing, man? It's Moonlight.
Yeah. This is, we got you live here. So what's on your mind?
Oh, sorry. Okay, cool, man. Look, I got like 3 questions here, and I don't want to ramble on or anything at this point. But,
sure.
First of all, I want to get into the UFOs over D.C. There are like 5 of them for like 3 days. I know you touched on that earlier, but to me, that should have stood out as like the number one UFO sighting of all time for all the greatest thing. There were so many people who saw it. Why isn't that, the biggest one that's always talked about on the radio shows? Why don't we look at that as the number one thing? And why? I mean, just why? I mean, even the UFO fans and stuff like that don't even bring it up. I mean, why is that? I mean, do you guys
I don't know. I don't know why. I mean, that was a seminal event. That was the message. It's like we had the message from the from high above, and it was brought down to us, and yet it's forgetting it. But
you're talking about
again,
the DC flyover?
The DC flyover, yeah. But see, that's the point. I'm continually bringing that back up. I'm bringing that story back up, and you refresh it too. So that whole conversation is that that's part of this remembering thing. And and when you came up, I remember. Thank you for calling in, because I remember the name of the guy I was trying to remember, and his name's Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith's podcast. That's what I was trying to remember, Joe.
Oh, okay.
That was Anyway, so you helped me remember that. Thank you. But yeah. Okay, go ahead. Which other one?
Well,
But anyways, one last thing for me to get off my chest about that particular event is that I bring that up to people, and I bring it up on the shows, and I am just like totally sloughed off. I mean, they just look like ugh, and it just irritates me to no end, and I'll just drop it there. But that is to me the golden standard. And screw Roswell,
Yeah.
So many people saw this.
I mean, I'm with you.
So,
obviously, there's a controlled narrative or something going on, and that's what I'm telling you. Sometimes the DC thing, the flyover, it happened. Probably one of the biggest events in UFO history, but we can't market it or sell it, so why talk about it? And
that's but also too, and that was the one that showed us who we are and what that was. Okay. So again, everything is coming out of Washington D.C. or the political genre. Is we are the powerful and you are the people, and you are subservient to us. And so anything that interferes with that narrative of Washington D.C. being omnipotent, that thing goes away. I mean, they want to keep that one away, and that's been going on for a long, long time. That's why, as far as disclosures to all the presidents and all that stuff, is nobody wants to give up their prestige or the power of what they're trying to hang on to this, to use this against us, okay? Yeah. But that's our legacy, and we need to remember our legacy. So there you go.
Yeah. Isn't that the one that also led to the treaty? The one with Eisenhower.
There was a treaty. Yeah, and where we got sold out. Yeah, I know. Or actually, the treaty wasn't a treaty. The treaty was basically this is what we're going to do, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. That was really it. All of these so-called UFO treaties. It's like they fly down and they essentially give the riot act. It's all a huge joke. I mean, that's one thing that people don't necessarily get. I mean. When you have a superior adversary or somebody comes by and says, "Yeah, this is what we're going to kind of do," well, what do we do? I mean, I guess they try. I guess Reagan and all them were trying with Star Wars, trying to shoot them out of the sky, which is like kind of a joke. I mean, it's not happening. But yeah, but it all comes down to that. But there are people that's the narrative. That we are the most powerful, and do what we say. So.
Yeah, thanks.
I agree with you. At least we got something out of the deal on that one, but some technology or something. It's not like the Aztecs and all that kind of crap. But,
there's transistors and there's fiber optics and supposedly all this stuff. But then again, also too, when you think about this, all the stuff, all the mechanical devices that we so-called get. I mean, if you go back to some of the earlier civilizations, they're already within us already. I mean, literally. I mean, we have the best transistors in our brains already that can communicate in vast, but we just don't know how to use them. And we've been like the iPhone. We've got our own computerized database. Well, that database exists already, but we just don't know how to use it or forgotten how to use it. So,
all right, yeah, fellas, I got one last break I got to take here. We got a few minutes left. Thanks for calling in,
thanks,
man. If you want to hang, you can. All right.
Well, will you give me a favor, Joe? bring up about the Black Knight satellite, and then if you would, ask him about what he considers the most important that we can actually have some proof on, okay?
Absolutely, brother. Thanks for the call.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you later, man.
Moon, everybody. Guy keeps me on my toes. We'll be right back with Chad C. Meek. A few minutes left on the program. Don't go anywhere.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on The Fringe FM.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up. Standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
All right, we're here with Chad C. Meek from GiantRockTheMovie.com talking about the George Van Tassel story, the Integratron. Go check it out, GiantRockTheMovie.com, if you can get behind it so we can get this story out. And I think Moon, who just called in, is right talking about the Black Knight satellite, who they, a lot of UFO people thought that this thing was a spaceship in our orbit. And NASA just said, no, it's a thermal blanket. And they just kind of stick with that story, right? George Van Tassel story, Roswell. I know Roswell's not a big deal to some people. But what I'm trying to say is that some of the best UFO stories that we have in this community get, in my mind, they get washed over or flooded with newer things that are just seem to be outrageous. And I don't really know if some people understand just how powerful disinfo can be. And I've experienced this in my own life where I've went to an event and an event site that something really did happen, and other narratives get involved with it, which may not really be happening. And then we lose the original truth somewhere in the whole mess of it. Just like this Oumuamua thing. They keep talking about this thing, bringing it back up because they can't ignore it because it's the first thing of its kind. Nobody's ever seen anything like it, and so naturally people are going to go, that's a space probe. We've talked about it I don't know how many times over the years, and they keep covering it up saying, you watch, and if they haven't done it already, it's just a space debris. They don't want you looking into this stuff, and if you keep doing it, then they, the next race we might be talking about is yellow zebras. You understand what I'm saying? I think we're losing. Well, actually, we need to go back to the chalkboard here.
What's so, like for instance, the recent sighting by British Airways just, I guess, last week or so, it happened. This gigantic, something that just flew by this, 3 different airlines saw it, what have you. I mean, I saw that today on Yahoo. That was kind of an interesting thing. I mean, it pops up, but also stuff like, like with the flight, with the lights over, Phoenix, Arizona and all that. I mean, God, I mean, that was so obvious. And yet what is it, the governor or the mayor of Phoenix? He shows up with in a spacesuit the next day talking about that, I mean, it's so strange. And he later even admitted that he saw the lights too, but yet he had to get himself into a spacesuit. And I think it just has to, I think it has to do with just basically this linear thinking and their ego trying to protect their turf, trying to protect this whole thing rather than just kind of letting it, I mean, these events, I mean, when you think about, they're seminal events. I mean, they're events that literally they're so foundational, and yet again, I mean, one thing, I mean, like with the various discoveries, the archaeological discoveries that that they found near Turkey and what have you, that predate or pre-flood and all that stuff. Okay, so it shatters every Judeo-Christian narrative as far as when our civilization began, and it's being shattered all the time, but yet it still prevails. I mean, it still hangs on, and I think that that's one of the things too. And I know, and I've had several conversations, especially with the Jehovah's Witness. They like I said, they like to come here and then they like to run away. Yeah. But the bottom line is that when you think about all this stuff here, I mean, it really does. It shakes you up, and we should be shook up.
I just don't want to get off track. Okay, like the giant rock story to me, the Joshua Tree, all that stuff. It's huge. Roswell, in my mind, is still pretty big. The Travis Walton story is huge. To me, the Calvin Parker story is huge.
Yeah.
And what we're dealing with is, and thank God we've got some real journalists in this community that are checking people. And what we're dealing with is, to be honest with you, Chad, I mean, money, right? So, and disinformation. That's what we're dealing with. Well, how do we put this information out? And we put it in science fiction books like, Secret Machines. So we're supposed to believe you were pulled into a padded room, but you're going to put out a science fiction book and tell us how it is. And blue avians and this, Lynn Caston wrote a book about all kinds of alien races. What I'm saying is we can't just believe where the marketing goes, right? If you're a real truth seeker, you can't just focus where the marketing is making you focus. I know it's hard not to, because that's marketing and advertising's job, is to get you to focus on what they're putting out. But it kind of conflicts with what we're trying to do here in a way. I'm not against anybody making money, selling their stories, movies, and books or anything like that, especially if it's real. But it becomes a huge problem when our focus gets, moved towards something that probably isn't real. Meanwhile, the truth is really going on. And not just me or you, but mass quantities of people. And so a story like George Van Tassel's story doesn't get noticed. Or the Black Knight satellite. Or Oumuamua, another article comes out and just throws it to the side, or the fast radio burst.
But if there were well thought out movies or well thought out, as far as that really could capture the imagination, it would catch on. And it's kind of the chicken before the egg for the chicken. You need the cash to get the story out, and then you got to fight like hell to keep the integrity of the story going on too. And that's the other flip side as far as with my journey, is that I have legacy issues as far as, trying to stay somewhere fairly close to the whole storyline to forget without letting it get too out of the way, I've already been in, there's really a movie about making the movie about Giant Rock with all the various experiences I've had with people. I'm not kidding either. I literally had one guy, I've told this story before, and I had a big blow up early on with these people who were from Hollywood. They were second tier, Hollywood people. But this one guy had a dream, and his dream was that he saw my aunt and uncle get in a fight, and my aunt drove off, and my uncle got another car got an airplane and ran her off the road. And he would not get off that whole part of the storyline. And I should have just said, oh yeah, great. But bottom line is my aunt would never do that, and my uncle would never do that. It wasn't them, and it would never be them. And so, but yet, but because he was so emphatic, the whole thing blew. That was the start of the big blow up. That and them playing around with the money, not coming up with the money like they're supposed to, but that was a big thing. That was a big ordeal, and so and then literally through that, I literally got death threats over that thing. So it's amazing as far as what this is. But again, you need to meet the market halfway. And the other thing too is for continuity as far as story goes. That's one thing. That is the whole reason why I did a feature film, to basically control the narrative, keep it as close as I can, but at least make it interesting and palatable to the taste of the consuming public. And it's something you have to do, as far as that goes. But anyway, that's what I did. But yeah, you're right. There is a force out there, and I can't put my hands on it. When you talk about conspiracy theory, I think it's more. It's on a different level. Yeah, well, I can understand greed. I wish I could grab my hands around the greed thing. As far I could understand that, but it's just weird. It's just some weird ass energy, and it's all part of an ego thing as far as who control. It comes down to who controls the narrative, and you need money to control the narrative, or you got to fight like hell, like me. And go on the Joe Roop show and
well, you got to be careful what you say too, because you don't want to get sued at the same time, because everybody wants to sue everybody now or some crap, and it's like, look, I've got friends that I know that were told, that I can't say their names. I'm sorry, I won't do that to them. They were told if they didn't play ball and promote the certain UFO investigative group, that they weren't going to be featured. In other words, you're not going to come speak at our conference. You're not going to tell us what happened there. Even I don't care how legit it is. If you don't play ball and get behind us. And the stuff, you guys have heard me rant before on this. Like, the stuff makes me sick, because there are things going on. There is alien life. People are having interdimensional and out-of-body experiences. There is something going on, but we're not having to fight to figure. It'd be cool if we could just fight to figure that out, but that's not what we're having to fight. We're also fighting Hollywood at its worst.
Sure. And it's absolutely degraded, and it's also confusing. It's actually imploding as far as that. And there is a culture in this whole thing too. And it's like this. I explain this to people too, as far as making, I'm not down on Sunset Boulevard, drinking, drinking martinis at night with with the power brokers that be. And if they have a script, or their cousin has a script, or their cousin has a story, and that guy, you're drinking with that guy, it's just the law of the jungle. I mean, they're going to get more, a lot more airplay than I would, because I'm not in that world. So I've been trying, and it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because once you're in that whole loop, you got to
sell your soul or something at some point.
You got to give something up. Yeah, I mean, I made a lot of rank jokes about what you have to give up, as far as to get a movie made in Hollywood, and I'm not interested.
Well, what I'm saying is let's say your uncle came along and he did and told this whole story, and a group of people came to him and you and said, "Look, we want to make a movie out of this, but we can't quite sell it this way, so we want to add some green zebras and an international or an intergalactic space war that's going on, and also." We need to add something to thicken the plot. Let's make this more of a prison colony type thing. And once we get this rolling, we can put books out and comic books and posters and Facebook ads and YouTube ads and really get the ball rolling. And we'll start out with a small subscription that everybody can afford, and then we'll slowly upsell and marketing. It's once they get you hooked, then they can upsell you everything, and then they downsell the people that start backing out. It's marketing 101. Meanwhile, the real truth seekers that are turning on the radios and TVs and everything are getting pissed off because they know something's going on, and they can't. Now everybody's just going, we're getting further away.
You just spelled out how it is and how it works. That's exactly how this this works. And it's an answer as far as, unless you're in bed with them doing that, it makes it very, very difficult to do, to play off to the real people, the real listeners, the real people who are involved with this. So yeah, it really is. I mean, your explanation is really adept as far as how it really works.
Well, so I don't mind if it's for ShamWow or an information product. I really don't. I mean, you got to sell the stuff. You got a product, you got to sell it, right? And I don't even mind it being in the, I guess you could say, the truth community or what. I don't. I really don't. A lot of people do. I don't mind people making money. But when we sell stories or do this other crap that's not involved with the truth, or do very cheap-shotted type things or scandalous stuff, then it takes away from the integrity of the whole thing.
It does. It really does. And I think, again, as far as what, you're absolutely, and that's exactly how I feel, as far as with Giant Rock, but the other good thing about Giant Rock, there's a ton of stuff on the internet, as far as that goes, and that was kind of the message I got from my Uncle George, is that eventually hey, you say it's enough, people will go out and find out for themselves, and who knows as far as the Integratron, as far as who else knows the gifts that somebody's been giving about that. That's why I've talked about this with some of my partners. If there's any way possible, we'd love to grab the Integratron back and get it out of the hands of the current owners, which are essentially it's a tourist.
They're selling tour sites with it, yeah. Or tourist attraction.
Right. So the whole meaning of that whole thing, and listen, again, they don't like me out there as far as that, because I've told, my uncle set that thing up where no one paid any money to go that. That was no one was ever supposed to pay one dime to access that stuff, because it was all set up on donations and But then, the people, obviously people have to make a living, but they're making a pretty good living on that stuff here. The place is filled up. The amazing thing about the Integratron now is that you go by there, hell man, parking lot's full of people. And I've ran into people from all over the world out there outside the gate of that thing. People still, who hear about this whole thing, and they come from places like Austria Australia or wherever. They come and they do this stuff. So, but the whole meaning of what that was done has been lost. So, one of two things, if we're possible, I'd love to get it back and literally start working with that, getting some adepts in there that can, maybe see our way as far as to enhance that, or in fact do additional research and development and see what we could come up with. Maybe even build another one.
That would be
a
cool.
more functional one. Yeah. So that's some of the ideas. That's the dream. But guess what? It takes money.
Yeah.
Getting back to the money thing. So it's a real cross between altruism and the whole capital thing there, and you get a little lost trying to blend the two. You really do. I mean,
well, you better share the wealth, because people are going to have a hard time, and that's a good question, Dennis. They're going to say, well, how? Let's say if a marketing team came to you, they're going to say, how can we profit off of George Van Tassel's legacy? And sometimes the only way to do that is to spread it around. But I'm telling you guys, and just keep researching, and you'll see, if you haven't already seen, that they'll start trying to change the real story to make it sellable. I know this happens in radio, too. You can have the best information. Ryan Gable's told you about this. Give you some deep quality information, and a producer will come along and say, well, I can't sell it. I don't know how to sell that. No matter how important it is to you, if they feel they can't sell it, it ain't going out.
Well, there's, and this goes on with medicine. This goes with, heck, the whole pharmaceutical industry has done that. I mean, gosh, the information, the cure for cancer and all this stuff has already been out there. And I mean this sincerely. It really is already out there. But again, the whole marketing and the whole pharmaceutical world is what they've done to, it's the most insidious, diabolical, mystery Babylon. That's this is the Kali Yuga. We're in the upside down world right now. I am basically, I really sense a new pulse wave coming, and that enlightenment will come. And when that happens, I tell you, it's going to be such a relief. But until then, you have to do the good fight. You do the good fight on UFO disclosure. You do a good fight on trying to make things more transparent, trying to show people what they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. You still have to put up the good fight until this other, it's a super sensible event. I know it's going to happen. And I think periodically we've had these events occur. There are times of enlightenment and perennial times of really good things happening. And I tell you, we're long overdue, because, if you think about where this is going to go, I mean, I don't know how worse the deception, I don't know how worse it could get. I mean, I'm hoping this is it. Yeah. So anyways, but on a positive note, I mean, that's what I'm doing. It's a giant rock. That's I'm doing a movie and making things, trying to make things a little bit better.
Well,
entertain people.
We're behind the story, Chad. You know that. Always have been. I know, man. Always will be. And, thanks again for coming on the show. I know it was kind of short notice, but it does captivate everything that we've been talking about over the past week. And so, didn't want people thinking that we don't believe in any of this stuff, because that's not it at all. I just want to get back to what really happened and start from there,
Oh man, thank you, brother. Hey, it's been my pleasure. And hey, you know what? Like I said, I mean, I like doing your show, and I'll be back whenever you want me back. I'll come back.
Man, I really appreciate it. That's cool for you to say. Chad Meek, everybody, GiantRockTheMovie.com. Is it Giant Rock the Movie on Facebook as well, right? And Twitter?
Yeah, Giant Rock, Facebook. Chad C. Meek. Just Google my name. You can get to me. And or if you want to contact me directly, Chad@GiantRockTheMovie.com. That's my email, Chad@GiantRockTheMovie.com. And anyways, listen, I'd be interested in talking or hearing from any of you out there. So anyway, Joe, thanks again for having me. It's been my pleasure, and it's been a lot of fun. God, I can't believe this is 3 hours. This is crazy.
It goes by quick.
All right.
Take care, brother. We'll do it again, too. And that was Chad Meek, everybody. Check it out. Chad Meek, Chad C. Meek, GiantRockTheMovie.com. And we got to get out here. Don't forget, we'll be here same time tomorrow night on the Fringe FM. The Fringe, thefringe.fm, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. You can also look up thefringefm.com. That'll get you there as well. That's the network. And tomorrow night, actually, I've got 2 different shows I might do. I'm still trying to figure out which one I'm going to do. And don't forget that this show was produced by The Fringe FM and cannot be broadcasted without written syndication. Intro music was by Chronox, and Guitar Man was by Bundy. Other music was by Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. Stay tuned if you're listening live for The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. We'll be back tomorrow night. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of The Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on The Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on The Secret Teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, The Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare